Alright, so wisdom they say is profitable to direct. Today's edition is something you will not want to miss. Nigeria is not a zoo by DELE-FAROTIMI. This is an extensive and in-depth talk. I mean, after listening to this, in fact, you will have a rethink if you are having a different thought about Nigeria. This will reset your mind and will reset your brain and will help you to understand Nigeria as a country and then understand yourself as a person in Nigeria. Nigeria is not a zoo. Then what is Nigeria? Let's define Nigeria. Let us watch this video and don't forget to share your opinion respectively on the comment sections. I'll be right back. See you in the video.
So today, I would like us to talk about a rather provocative topic. Nigeria is not a zoo. You hear me? Nigeria is not a zoo. You know, when you look at the dysfunction, the dystopian madness that has overtaken our country, the insanities that we have normalized, the complete absence of sanity in the operation of our country and in almost anything that concerns us, the scandalously insane manner in which the country is administered, it becomes very easy to do as Mazi Nnamdi Kanu did and then declare that Nigeria is a zoo. It's very easy. You know, because it's so obvious, right? We are obviously not, there's nothing normal about where we are, right? So it's very easy to conclude that Nigeria is a zoo. But it speaks only to the abnormality of our situation. It does not really, in truth, speak to our reality. It is very difficult to look at our driving culture, to look at our educational system, to look at our healthcare delivery system or dysfunction, to look at the way Nigeria rehabilitates terrorists, something not done by any other country in the world, including the United States. That's why they have Guantanamo Bay. But Nigeria, where nothing else works, we can't even generate electricity after spending tens of billions. But we've somehow managed to re-engineer the human mind to the point where terrorists are reintegrated, not just into society, but absorbed into the military. I believe it was John Locke that spoke about the basis for the evolution of the state and then concluded that the most essential function of the state endures in the protection of the lives and properties of the citizens, those who came together to form the state. And then you find that in the country Nigeria, somebody's brilliant invention is the radicalization of terrorists who had borne arms, killed people, depopulated villages and kept them in IDP camps till today, where they are barely fed. Children are uneducated, no schools, no healthcare, nothing. They are existing in a space where even animals will not be kept. They are routinely raped too, according to the United Nations and local observers. But those who are responsible for these are labeled repentant, and they are then absorbed into the armed forces. One of the generals even said, oh, such a person could rise to become the president of Nigeria. So when Nnamdi Kanu said Nigeria is a zoo, he had more than enough basis to draw the conclusions that he drew. But think about it. We just talked about the IDP camps. I put up a couple of videos this week showing you zoos. I'm not talking about UI zoo. I'm talking about zoo in proper countries. And the IDP camps are nowhere near, even me, who is not in an IDP camp, my circumstances are nowhere near as good as the one in London Zoo or the New York Zoo or any zoo in any country where human beings are still governed by reason. So What choice did Mazi Nnamdi Kanu have but to conclude in explanation of the madness that Nigeria is a zoo? You know, David Cameron, Buhari was right there. He didn't say it behind him. Buhari was right there. The videos are online. David Cameron opened his mouth. That corrupt former British Prime Minister. It was his corruption that led to his removal from office. That corrupt man who facilitates corruption in my own country opened his gob and said that Nigerians are fantastically corrupt. Or rather, let me not exaggerate. He said Nigeria is fantastically corrupt, not Nigerians. Although, unfortunately, as my people will say, even we who will not be who are not corrupt have been pulled into that orbit and labeled fantastically corrupt. And every time we pull our passport at any immigration control point all over the world, a fantastically corrupt person introduces himself. But was he lying? Did Cameron lie when he said we're fantastically corrupt? He wasn't lying. But like Mazi as well, he missed the obvious. What was it about us that will make him conclude that we are fantastically corrupt? What is it? What is it about us? Cameron must have seen something. Whether it is something that is obvious to the victims of Nigeria or something that is privy to in his role as the chief architect, that's Britain now, as the chief architect of the Nigerian mess and a chief beneficiary of our putrefaction. But he knew something that the average Nigerian was unaware of, that Buhari, who was with him, knew to be true, which was why he couldn't say a word. But what were these things? Because these are part of the things that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu saw before he concluded that we're a zoo, even though he was wrong. What are these things? I'll show you. Where else in the world would a government dare, and I say this deliberately, where else in the world would a government dare to be as brazen in its chilling as the ones in Nigeria? Even a chief accomplice in the ruination of this country, in the mortgage of the future of Nigeria, Rotimi Amechi would open his mouth and taunt us and make fun of us that nothing shocks us, nothing moves us, we do nothing. Well, has he lied? Was he lying? No, he told the truth. He told the truth. So when you can steal without consequence, when people, both the ruined, the victims, the victimizers, the judicial systems, the police, everything is structured to ensure that the thief gets away, the innocent get punished, the poor get judgment, the rich get justice. And if you ever doubt that Nigeria is a zoo, look at what happened in our aviation sector. See, even I called it a zoo, even though I know better. Nigeria is not a zoo. Nigeria, hear me and hear me clearly, is not a zoo. A zoo has structures, has order. Remember what Fela said? Beast of no nation, egbe naba society. Beast of no nation, egbe. What he was doing was I was playing into the imagery of Nigeria as some sort of jungle, a place inhabited by animals, because our situation bespeaks something that mimics the animalistic, because it cannot be that a people possessed of brains allow this madness to overtake their environment. It is impossible to ascribe what we are doing to a people who are still sentient, capable of thinking. It cannot be that we are so consumed by existential considerations, what we will eat, what we will drink, who you dey knack, what you will write, to the point where you are even incapable of seeing beyond your own lifetime, and you destroy tomorrow. You join them in destroying tomorrow, either by silent complicity or your active complicity. Why is it so difficult for you to connect your own role with our current situations? Why? There is a presumption of superior intellect that will lead us to continue to believe that we are any better than the base animals because our situation does not bespeak that to be the truth. See, let me explain something to you. Anywhere in the world where you have zoos, a zoo is planned. That's one of the first things. Go online, Google it. The Bronx Zoo, the New York Zoo, the London Zoo, Tokyo Zoo, Guangzhou. Google it, see it yourself. It's properly laid out. Is Nigeria properly laid out? Is it? Is this place planned? Does it resemble a place that somebody has given any thought to any planning? Even the structuring of the state is not designed to deliver anything of value to the victims of the country itself. It delivers value solely to the ruiners of Nigeria. But whilst you blame the ruiners, what do we say about the ruined and the victims? It is easy to point fingers at the ruiners. What about you? What is your role in this zoo, quote and unquote, that has been created? And that is flattering you if I call Nigeria a zoo. Nigeria is not a zoo. See, each species in the zoo is kept in its place. You will not find a zoo where the lion and antelope are kept in the same enclosure. It's not possible. It is not possible. Nobody will keep a snake, like a mamba, and any other animal in the same space. Nobody does that. You keep each animal in its own space with its own kind. And then sometimes you find some who are likes, and you allow them, perhaps in the petting area, the petting zoo area, you allow a few lambs to mix with the goats. That's all. But you are not going to bring a tiger into that enclosure. It's not happening. That is a zoo. The zoo is planned. Each species is kept in its place. Each person, you won't find the fish come into the cat's enclosure. They will not keep the lion where they are keeping the seals. Each species stays in its place. It is planned. The animals get fed. Do you understand? In the zoo, you feed the animal. There is an obligation on the zookeeper to feed the animal and care for the animal and ensure that it is properly kept in a good condition. If you would keep a seal, you are obliged to provide the environment in which a seal might thrive. Anything other than that, you get slammed with animal cruelty charges. But who cares about animal cruelty in a place where human beings are gunned down in broad daylight and the state explains, justifies, or denies, and you find fellow victims joining in doing this, and you call this a zoo? How? How do you call this a zoo? You have almost 20 million children slapping the streets, out of school, largely homeless, on the streets, and you call this a zoo? How many goats have you seen in the zoo going hungry? How many? Like, seriously, how many have you seen going hungry? Let me remind you, Yorubas have a proverb. If you tether a goat, you are under a duty to feed the goat. But they call Nigeria a zoo. Who feeds the animals in this zoo? People are starving to death, literally. I'm not talking figuratively. People are starving to death in Nigeria. A government is administering the starvation of people in IDP camps. Nigerians are dying in droves in the plateau, in the Benue trough. All over Nigeria, Nigerians are being killed by terrorists, quote and unquote. But these are almost, it is not out of place to call the persons being called terrorists direct employees of the Nigerian state. We have heard somebody like Asari Dokubo coming out to tell us that he worked for the Nigerian state and is licensed to bear the kind of arms that his boys bear. What kind of state is that? And you still don't believe that? Look, Nigeria is not a zoo, please. One of the first things that you must take for granted is that when any of the animals in the zoo falls ill, they get treated. They get treated. Look, don't take my word for it. Google it. Dr. Poe. Dr. Poe merely runs a veterinary clinic. His veterinary clinic, you will find him on Nat Geo Wild. His veterinary clinic is better appointed than any of the teaching hospitals in Nigeria. Better appointed not only in terms of equipment, but in terms of personnel. Almost every fantastic Nigerian medical personnel has fled Nigeria. But our people continue to pretend and tell themselves Nigeria is a zoo. It's not a zoo. A zoo is better than this. If a zookeeper should treat a zoo the way it has been treated and the way Nigeria has been treated, it will be in jail. If you will keep animals, you are under a duty to keep the animal not only in a good environment, in a humane. Do you hear that? Humane. Nigerians are not even treated humanely or governed humanely. If you are treating people humanely, would what happened to that lady in Ibom here? Would it have happened? Would Ibom here have happened if you treat people humanely? And that happens routinely every day. You see soldiers routinely dehumanizing Nigerians, having them roll inside water because they are hyper or because they are this. All you have to do to be able to unleash that kind of madness on the Nigerian is to find a convenient label. That person is a Shia. So because he's a Shia, he suddenly had his humanity taken away from him. It's not enough that he's a Muslim. It's not enough that he's a human being. It's not enough. is a Shia, and that legitimizes every evil against him. Oh, he's an Igbo man, so he must be IPOB. That legitimizes the madness. Oh, he's one of those who do a Republic people, shoot him. That's why you could go into Sunday Igbo's house and kill people in his house and pound him into exile. That's why you could carry Nnamdi Kanu and put him in a jail. The same state that is de-radicalizing murderers and terrorists. Where does it find the legitimacy or the moral authority to label anybody a terrorist after it has found the space to mollycoddle all manner of terrorists, even elevating one, the light of Pantami, into government? Where is the basis for the legitimacy of a state that routinely mollycoddles terrorists? I'm not going to speak to the merit or otherwise of his arrest, but how do you explain the fact that this person has been in jail for God knows how many years now? The same state that is de-radicalizing terrorists and absorbing them into the army, and so you call that one a zoo. Nigeria is not a zoo. The sooner we wrap our brains around this, the better. A zoo cannot function the way this madness is functioning. They would have shut it down in any country in the world. If you want to know how bad it is, go into my Facebook, Do Not Die in Their War. Feel free to download it free on my website. Or you could just simply look for the essay, I Removed the Lion Cub. It tells the story of a visit I made once to Obasanjo Presidential Library. I stayed in the hotel that is there. And my wife got me to take a walk to what they labeled a zoo. So we walked there. The story of what happened in that zoo is the one I recounted in I Removed the Lion Cub. Suffice to say that the one that you consider the best of the ruinous lot that has destroyed Nigeria, what passed for a zoo in his presidential library, and that is the peak of his ego. He had a couple of lions. One of them was labeled Aremu. I believe he got it as a cub, but he kept it in a space that cannot be more than 4x4 if it is up to that. 4x4 meters. That is the extent of the cage in which this lion was kept. That is the lion that in recent, I think like a year or two ago, killed one of the keepers. That is the kind of zoo you keep in Nigeria. So you imagine that the zoo you have in Nigeria is the zoo. So every word must be Nigerianized, just like Bogos became big instead of force. So you think you will take a zoo, you carry a zoo and take it and turn it into a Nigerian concept where all kinds of abnormalities happen. And it is this madness that has equally led you into a further error. And I've seen some of you fall into that error again this morning as I've been talking online. I'm seeing your chat where you're saying, no, it's not a zoo, it's a jungle. Nigeria is not a jungle. Please, stop insulting the animals. Please, do not insult the animals. Nigeria is not a jungle. Jungles function on predictable order. When it will rain, when you would have bushfires, when it will be flooded, the animals know when to birth. You will not see a lion doing anything like eating apple and things. If it's eating grass, it's to purge from the madness. It will hunt. The antelope knows that if it does not run, it will die. The lion knows that if it does not hunt, it will starve. The jungle runs on predictable order. The ants know they must gather if they will feed. Those who have made it their job to begin to find the structure of ant holes, if you want to take the time, go online, Google it, ant hole. When you see how the kind of massive cities those little tiny creatures build in the earth, you will understand that you cannot even compare Nigeria to a jungle. Have you ever seen a goat bleating like a lamb? Have you heard a lion barking? Every animal knows what it is meant to do and they do it. Nature follows predictable order. Consistent, even in the inconsistency of nature, such as wildfires, it renews the fauna and vegetation. The fact of the matter is that Nigeria is not a jungle. Jungle follows natural law. The zoo is a construction of men with thinking faculties who build things that reflect the kind of societies that they themselves have built. They observe the animals in a civilized environment. You flatter yourselves when you call Nigeria a zoo. Nigeria is not a zoo. And it is most definitely not a jungle. The sooner you know this, the better. Nigeria is neither a jungle nor a zoo. It is a dystopian nightmare. And why has it become so? Impunity. The only reason the zoo in a modern space is what it is, and why you, a Nigerian, is not living in a zoo, Nigeria is not a zoo, is because the zoo, as I've explained to you, is properly planned, each species stays in its place, the animals get fed and taken care of, and what is more, the operators of the zoo are under a duty to take care of the animals that they have kept in captivity. Duty. People get sent to jail for maltreating their dogs. If you follow the news that a couple of years ago, that boy Zuma that was playing for West Ham, the defender, he got done for kicking a cat. They shoot us routinely in this country, and you are calling yourself, if you are going to be calling yourself a zoo, just say that is a Nigerian zoo. So you've already Nigerianized the thing completely. Everybody knows that it's not a zoo in the true sense of the word zoo, but just some dystopian nightmare, because that is what Nigeria has become. That is what it has become. The lack of law and order, the reign of impunity, the complete destruction of the judicial system, the impunity that you see in broad daylight every day, as you saw it with the airport incidences from Oshioli to Kwam 1 to Kwam 2. That is Nigeria for you, a place ruled by impunity. You flatter yourselves when you call it a zoo. It is most definitely not a zoo. And you insult the animals when you call it a jungle. It is definitely, most definitely not a jungle. So let's be clear. As I told you last week, diagnosis is the first step in treatment. Walk away from the lies of your country being a zoo. A zoo is much better. Walk away from the lies of Nigeria being a jungle. That flatters you. If Nigeria must become, it will be because you walked away from the idiocies that have assured that you are divided. And those who benefit from this madness are as united as they have ever been. They are as united as you would ever see Nigerian politicians. I told you, do not die in their war. Yeah, their wars are practically done. It's our war that is about to start. And the sooner you recognize your fellow victims and stop the idiocies and madness of the bigotry that have divided all of you and rendered you incapable of fighting for yourselves, recognize the commonalities of the afflictions of each and every one of the people you are daily assailing and fighting when you should have been facing your true enemies. I've said all that I need to say on this subject. But I'll call you to action once again, as I have done, because I'm not just about railing. I'm not interested in railing. I'm interested in seeing a Nigeria that changes. Change in Nigeria means revolution, because there is nothing salvageable about the system as it is. But that revolution becomes more and more difficult to achieve every day because you've embraced hatred instead of embracing the reality of where you are. The easiest and most peaceful pathway to that revolution is for you to get involved in the electoral process, because outside of that, the only game left in town are your guns. But I'm not saying get involved in this present fraud. I've told you times without number, get involved by demanding that the electoral process be taken away from thieves and crooks, so that the likes of Yakubu will not come in the middle of the night in 2027 to be telling you to go to court, because the court they are telling you to go to is already an accomplice in the evil that has overtaken the land. Randy Peter is doing a fantastic job, and shame on all of you who have not found the grace to amplify the work that young man is doing. He will probably be the one, if you follow him, if you amplify his word, that will save you from having to carry guns in due course. Because what is obvious is that this cannot continue. Something has to give somewhere. It cannot be that the cost for repairing a bridge, the third mainland bridge as announced by Umahi, is probably enough to build a brand new one with some change left over. It cannot be, and then all of you will just keep quiet, and then we'll just move on and be waiting for 2027. That is not the action of conscious people, and certainly animals will not allow that in the jungle. So you are not a jungle. It is not possible that you continue to sit down because you sat down and you did nothing about the Calabar Coastal Road. They've moved it a notch further. Now they are telling you they want to spend all that money to repair third mainland. How many times do they repair third mainland, for heaven's sake? And then Keyamo is telling you it requires 702 billion to renovate Muritala Mohammed. How much would it take to build a brand new one? And you are all quiet. Instead of focusing on that, you are busy abusing his Igbo, his Omo Igbo, his Yoruba, all kind of idiocy comes out of your mouth constantly instead of focusing on the issues that should concern you. I have said enough for one day. More than half a word has been said today. Your capacity to hear is another ball game entirely. But I go to my bed at night, sleeping well in the knowledge. Now, history will absolve me. I've done my bit. I did not keep quiet when it was more convenient to be quiet. You need to get off your lazy asses and do something about your situation, or your children will inherit the slavery that is already around your neck. Oh yeah, this is the part where I say goodbye to you. I'll be looking forward to seeing you next week. Oh, if I say Nigeria is not a jungle, and I say Nigeria is not a zoo, what then is Nigeria? Increasingly, I have come to the conclusion that Nigeria can only be likened to an evil forest. It's a place where abnormalities have been normalized, where the people have stopped being shocked, where the government has stopped being bothered by public opinion, where the norms of the society has collapsed. That is what we've become, an evil forest. Anything goes, a place of perversion and impunity. But it doesn't have to be like this, and it shouldn't be. In being the way we are failing an entire race. We, Nigerians, we are failing an entire race by our refusal to find common purpose and save ourselves. What shall be said of you by the time you are in the way? Have you blessed weeks? But open your consciences.
All right, I am sure if you have listened up to this point, you must have learned or gained one or two things. Yes, thank you very much, DELE-FAROTIMI. Nigeria is not a zoo. Then what is Nigeria? Nigeria is an evil forest. Man, that definition of me. Anyway, you look at it from this angle, he has actually talked extensively. And if you're living in Nigeria or you're a Nigerian, you understand that this is a word that is not just coming from an individual, it's a word of wisdom, kind of like a word that has been defined from the inside. And then you will understand that what he's saying here is nothing but definitely the truth, because we have been so divided by our so-called capture. I mean, by the politicians, by either the means of religious ethnicity or what have you, and this has kept us in captive for a very, very long time. If we can have ourselves, to listen to this man and start putting to practice some of these things, like seriously, we'll have revolution. But like he said in the video, revolution is very, very far from us, because our mind and our mindset is so, our mind and our mindset has been sold out. And because of that, it becomes very, very difficult for us to start thinking aright. And not until we start thinking rightly and we start doing what we are supposed to do, I'm telling you, we'll not be free from where we are. 2027 is by the corner. You look at the preliminary election that just happened. Look at the by-election that just happened few days yesterday, and you could tell what 2027 holds for Nigerians. And not until electoral reform is done, like seriously, we are not achieving anything, and nothing is ever going to happen. Like, if we could have ourselves to start coming out to lend our voices in this regard, sincerely speaking, it will go a long way in shaping and resetting the mindset of the citizen. I keep asking those questions. How many are they, and how many are the masses that these guys are keep using and keep manipulating us? Well, somebody said something, and that is nothing but the truth, that they have used hunger to weaponize the nation. That, in fact, even coming out to protest is when you have urgent 2K in your pocket to eat or to pay transport, you can even come out to protest. So not until we start lending our voice in this regard, like seriously, we are going nowhere. We need people like DELE-FAROTIMI that can stand out. I mean, come out to the media, just like he has been campaigning, advocating for a good Nigeria. If Nigerian is good, it's actually good for every one of us. Look at the way we have been liking Nigeria to a zoo. Wow, I never knew that even the zoo is even more better, more organized than Nigeria, that we are likening the zone to be. You can imagine, if you haven't listened to this man and then give a deep thought to what he has just said, you will understand that we are even more far behind than what we are assuming ourselves to be. All right, so with these few points that we have established, can you still categorically call Nigeria a zoo, or can you call Nigeria a jungle? Like seriously, you could tell that even these places are more organized. I mean, they are more unified, than even what we are liking Nigeria to look like. Anyway, you've heard it all. A word they say is enough for the wise. Now you will tell from your reasoning and your response and what you're putting up on the comment sections will now let us to know if you are wise or if you are well, let me not say it, so let us know what you think on the comment sections. Please share your opinion respectively on the comment sections. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.